There's a type of loneliness that can't be cured with company. It's the kind that's born when you're present for everyone except yourself. When every kind word is directed at others, and the silence that remains is too heavy for your own heart. Have you ever felt like you lost yourself along the way of caring for everything and everyone except your own soul? But what if I told you there's a love that can rebuild everything? A love that doesn't come from outside, but from within. A love that is sacred because it's a reflection of God Himself in you. Stay with me until the end, because today you're going to discover how the union between self-love and spirituality can be the healing your soul has been searching for. This journey begins now, and it can transform everything. Welcome, dear soul. If you're here at this moment, it's not by chance. Perhaps you've arrived tired of carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Perhaps you've given so much of yourself that you forgot you also need to be cared for. Or perhaps you're just seeking a light in the midst of so much inner darkness. Whatever the reason, know that this is a safe space. Here, there are no judgments, only acceptance, truth, and faith. Today we're going to talk about something that is often misunderstood, even rejected by sincere hearts. So, how many times have you heard that loving yourself is selfish? How many times were you taught that putting yourself first is an act of vanity or pride? And how many times, by believing this, did you abandon yourself, silence yourself, erase yourself to fit into others' expectations? But the truth, the one that sets you free and heals, is quite different. Self-love is not the opposite of humility. It doesn't compete with loving your neighbor. In reality, it's the foundation of everything. Because you can't give what you don't have. You can't offer genuine love if your own heart is empty. You can't light anyone's path if your own light is out. And when we talk about self-love within a spiritual perspective, something even deeper happens. We're not talking about narcissism or a superficial search for validation. We're talking about recognizing that you are a divine creation, that there's a sacred purpose in your existence, that God didn't make anything by chance, and that includes you, with all your imperfections, wounds, and unique beauties. Spirituality teaches us that we are temples, that within each of us dwells something greater, something eternal. And if we are temples, how can we neglect, abandon, or mistreat what is sacred? How can we expect to honor God if we dishonor ourselves daily with harsh words, destructive thoughts, and choices that diminish us? Loving yourself is, therefore, an act of faith. It's believing that you deserve the same love, the same compassion, and the same patience that you offer to others. It's understanding that taking care of yourself isn't a luxury, but a spiritual necessity. It's allowing the divine light that exists in you to shine without guilt, without fear, without shame. Throughout this video, we'll walk together on a healing journey. We'll look at the pain that's born when we abandon ourselves. We'll understand what God thinks about this. We'll discover how to reconnect with our purest essence. And in the end, we'll be reborn, not as perfect people, but as human beings who finally allow themselves to be loved by God, by others, and especially by themselves. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and allow this message to find in you the fertile soil where transformation can flourish. You're not alone on this journey. God is here, I am here, and most importantly, you are here, willing to find yourself again. And that, in itself, is already an act of courage and love. May this conversation be like a gentle embrace for your soul. May each word be a reminder that you are valuable, loved, and deserving of all the peace your heart so desires. Shall we begin? There's a silent pain that lives in so many hearts. It's the kind that doesn't scream, doesn't call attention, but corrodes from within, day after day. It's the pain of someone who has become invisible to themselves, of someone who learned to exist only in function of others, as if their own life were a supporting role in a story that should be theirs. Perhaps you know this feeling well. That feeling of waking up every day and putting on a mask of strength, of availability, of infinite patience. You smile when you need to smile. You help when asked for help. You're present in every difficult moment for the people around you. But when night comes and you're finally alone with your thoughts, who's there for you? Who holds your hand? Who wipes your tears? The truth hurts, but it needs to be said. You lost yourself. At some point along the way, between so many deliveries and renunciations, you stopped being a priority in your own life. And the saddest part is that it happened so gradually, so subtly, that you didn't even notice. They were small choices, small silences, a suffocated desire here, a postponed dream there, a swallowed word, a denied feeling. Until one day, you look in the mirror and barely recognize who's on the other side. This pain of self-abandonment is deep because it attacks the root of who we are. It disconnects us from our essence, from our most intimate truth. And when we lose that connection, everything around us loses color. Life becomes a mechanical sequence of obligations. Days drag on heavy, without brightness, without true purpose. You function, but you don't live. You breathe, but you don't feel. And there's more. When you abandon yourself, you begin to search outside for what can only be found within. You look for validation in others' glances. You seek approval to feel you have value. You try to fill the inner void with external recognition, with compliments, with a sensation of being useful, necessary, indispensable. But none of this heals. None of this brings true peace. Because deep down, you know you're betraying yourself. You know you're living a life that isn't entirely yours. And this latent awareness generates guilt, generates anguish, generates a tiredness that no night's sleep can cure. It's the tiredness of the soul, the tiredness of someone carrying a burden they should uncarry alone, the burden of constantly neglecting themselves. Often, this pain comes accompanied by deep beliefs that were planted in us from early on. Thinking about yourself is selfish. Good people always sacrifice themselves. To love is to give everything, expecting nothing. These phrases may even sound noble, but when misinterpreted, they become shackles. They imprison us in a cycle of self-sacrifice that honors neither us nor God. And then the signs begin. The body becomes ill, because the body is wise and screams when the soul is silent. Anxiety increases. Sadness settles in. Relationships, even surrounded by people, begin to seem empty. You're always tired, always exhausted, but you can't stop, because stopping would mean looking inward. And looking inward hurts. It hurts to face the abandonment you imposed on yourself. There's also the pain of comparison. You look at others, and it seems like everyone has their lives together. Their purpose is clear, their self-love intact. And you feel lost, insufficient, as if you've failed at something essential. But what you don't realize is that this comparison is cruel and unfair, because you're comparing your messy interior with others' organized exterior. And that will never be a fair measure. The pain of self-abandonment is lonely, because how do you explain to someone that you feel empty, when in everyone's eyes you're strong, capable, always present? How do you say you're losing yourself when everyone depends on you? How do you ask for help when you're the one who always helps? This pain also carries shame. Shame of admitting you're not okay. Shame of recognizing you need care. Shame of feeling you're failing to be that perfect, unshakable person everyone expects you to be. And so you continue, dying little by little inside, while maintaining a facade of life on the outside. But here's the truth you need to hear. This pain is not the end. It's not a permanent sentence. It is, in fact, a calling from your soul, asking to be seen, heard, loved. It's your deepest being crying out, I'm still here. I still matter. I still deserve to be cared for. And this cry, however painful it may be, is also a cry of hope. Pain, when recognized, can be the first step toward healing. It can be the door that opens to a new way of living, a way where you don't have to choose between loving others and loving yourself, where you understand that both can not only coexist, but must coexist for there to be true fullness. So, if you're feeling this pain now, don't push it under the rug. Don't pretend it doesn't exist. Don't try to muffle it with more work, more deliveries, more distractions. Allow yourself to feel it. Allow yourself to recognize that you deserved more from yourself. And know that this perception, however painful it may be, is the beginning of everything. It's the first ray of light breaking through the darkness. Because you weren't created to live like this. You weren't placed on this earth to be a ghost in your own life. You were created to shine, to flourish, to experience the fullness of love, and that includes the love you direct toward yourself. This pain you feel, it's showing you the way back home. And home, in this case, is yourself. Now, let's elevate our gaze. Let's step out for a moment from this dense pain and allow divine light to illuminate what, until now, seemed hopeless. God doesn't ask you to nullify yourself. He doesn't desire for you to be an empty vessel, pouring yourself out until you dry up. He desires for you to be a fountain. And the difference between a vessel and a fountain is simple. The fountain constantly renews itself. It gives, but also receives. It flows, but doesn't run dry. And to be that fountain, you need to be connected to the greater fountain, which is God Himself. When you abandon yourself, when you empty yourself you are, without realizing it, interrupting the divine flow. Because God wants to care for you. He wants to nourish you, renew you, strengthen you. But how can He do this if you never stop? If you never allow yourself to receive, if you never open space for Him to pour His grace upon you? True spirituality teaches us that we are co-creators of our reality alongside God. And part of this co-creation is honoring the temple we've been given. Our body, our mind, our soul. Every time you choose to care for yourself, you're saying to God, I value what you created. I recognize that I am worthy of your love. And that is one of the most powerful prayers that exists. The prayer lived through our daily choices. There's an old story that illustrates this well. A very devout man lived in a house by a river. One day, a flood began. The waters rose rapidly, and a neighbor passed by in a car offering help. The man refused, saying, I don't need it. God will save me. The waters continued to rise. A boat appeared, and again he refused. God will save me. Finally, already on the roof of the house, a helicopter appeared, and once more he refused. The man ended up drowning. In heaven, he asked God, indignant, why didn't you save me? And God answered, I sent you a car, a boat, and a helicopter, but ye refused all forms of help. This story reminds us of something essential. God acts through us, through our choices, through the care we have for ourselves. Refusing to care for yourself, under the pretext that it's selfishness or vanity, can actually be a way of refusing divine help. It is understanding that saying no to some things is necessary so that you can say yes with more truth and more presence to the things that really matter. You care for yourself with reverence, because you understand that you're caring for a divine creation. You're honoring the life God gave you. You're re-preserving the light He lit in you, so it can shine and also illuminate the path for others. Spirituality invites us to see self-love as a sacred act. Every choice of self-care, whether resting when you're tired, saying no when you need to, seeking help when you're overwhelmed, is a silent prayer. It's you saying, God, I trust in you. I trust that I don't have to carry everything alone. I trust that I deserve to be cared for, just as I care for others. Moreover, faith teaches us about forgiveness, and this includes forgiving yourself. How many times have you punished yourself for past mistakes? How many times have you blamed yourself for not being perfect? How many times have you carried a weight that God had already taken from you, but you insisted on holding? The spiritual perspective reminds us that God didn't create us to be perfect. He created us to be human, flawed, vulnerable, but capable of learning, growing, and transforming ourselves. When you allow yourself to love yourself with the same eyes that God loves you, something powerful happens. You stop comparing yourself. You stop demanding so much from yourself. You begin to understand that the spiritual journey is not about becoming someone different, but about becoming who you always were before the wounds, before the limiting beliefs, before the self-abandonment. This union between self-love and spirituality is, therefore, the foundation of true healing, because it takes us out of the place of victims and puts us in the place of co-creators alongside God. It teaches us that we can, yes, transform our reality, that we can, yes, heal our wounds, that we can, yes, live with fullness, peace, and purpose. But this begins with a simple and profound choice. The choice to include yourself in the list of people who deserve to be loved. God is by your side on this journey. He always has been, but now He invites you to walk with Him, not as someone dragging themselves, exhausted and empty, but as someone who walks with dignity, knowing they are loved, cared for, and deserving of all divine grace. Now that we understand the pain and see through the eyes of faith, it's time to walk. The path to healing is not a straight road, nor a fast one. It's made of small steps, of daily choices, of moments of silent courage. But each step taken in this direction is a step toward the light, toward peace, toward reconnection with who you truly are. The first thing you need to understand is that healing begins with recognition. You've already taken this step by coming here, by allowing yourself to see the pain, to name the abandonment you experienced. Recognition is not victimization. It's having the courage to look inward and say, yes, I lost myself. Yes, I neglected myself. But now I choose a different path. And this different path begins with acceptance. Accepting doesn't mean conforming to the pain or to past mistakes. Accepting is making peace with what was. It is understanding that you did the best you could with the internal and external resources you had at that moment. It's forgiving yourself for the times you were hard on yourself. It's releasing the guilt that has kept you trapped and allowing lightness to enter. Acceptance is liberating because it takes you out of the place of resistance. When you resist pain, it persists. When you fight against yourself, you exhaust yourself. But when you accept, when you embrace your humanity with all its imperfections, something opens up. A space is created for healing to happen. And in that space, God can act. One of the most powerful paths to healing is prayer, but not that mechanical. Memorized prayer, repeated without feeling. I'm talking about the prayer of the heart, that sincere conversation with God where you can be totally yourself, without masks, without fear of being judged. Tell Him about your pain. Tell Him about the tiredness, about the emptiness, about the fear of putting yourself first, and ask for help. Ask for strength. Ask for clarity. God listens. He always listens. And the answer may not come in spectacular form, an array of light or a thundering voice. Often, the answer comes in the form of a gentle thought that arises in the morning. An unexpected sensation of peace, a casual encounter that brings you exactly the word you needed to hear. God speaks through the subtle, through the delicate, and when you are in constant prayer, you become more sensitive to these messages. Another essential aspect of the path to healing is learning to listen to yourself. It seems simple, But how many times have you really stopped to hear what your body, your mind, and your soul are trying to tell you? Your body speaks through tiredness, tension, physical pain. Your mind speaks through repetitive thoughts, worries, fears. Your soul speaks through that soft, deep voice that whispers what is true for you. Learn to take pauses. Reserve moments of the day, even if they're brief, to be in silence, to breathe consciously, to ask yourself, how am I feeling now? What do I need? And then listen. Don't judge what comes up. Just listen and honor what your essence is asking of you. Often, what you need is rest. Other times, it's to express something you've been holding for a long time. Sometimes, it's to cry. Other times, it's to laugh. It could be being alone or seeking company. It could be movement or stillness. Each day is different. Each moment asks for something unique. And when you're in tune with yourself, it becomes easier to know what to do. The path to healing also involves reframing old beliefs. And more importantly, do these beliefs bring you closer to or farther from God's love? Replace these voices with spiritual truths. When the voice of guilt arises, respond with, I am a divine creation and I deserve love and care. When the fear of being selfish comes, affirm, caring for myself makes me more capable of loving others in a true way. Another important step is establishing healthy boundaries. And here's something many have difficulty with. Saying no, not to hurt someone, but to preserve your own integrity. Saying no when you're exhausted. Saying no when something isn't aligned with your values. Saying no to create space for the yeses that really matter. At first, this may seem impossible. You may feel guilt, fear of disappointing, fear of being rejected. But remember, establishing boundaries is an act of self-love and also of respect for others, because when you say yes with your mouth, but not with your heart, you're not being truthful. And true relationships are built on truth, not on sacrifices that generate resentment. Healing also asks that you surround yourself with people who honor you, people who respect your boundaries, who celebrate your growth, who encourage you to care for yourself. Perhaps you'll need to distance yourself from toxic environments, from relationships that drain your energy, from people who only appear when they need something. And this is not cruelty, it's wisdom. Adityanaji, practicing self-care as a secret ritual. Not just when you have time left over, but as a priority. This can be as simple as taking a shower with full presence, feeling the water, thanking the body that sustains you. It can be preparing a meal with love, nourishing yourself not just physically, but also emotionally. It can be walking in nature, breathing fresh air, connecting with God's creation. Each act of self-care is a prayer in motion. It's you saying, I value the life God gave me. I honor this temple He entrusted to me. And the more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. What once seemed impossible or selfish begins to reveal itself as essential and sacred. The path to healing also involves gratitude, being thankful for who you are, for what you have, for how far you've already walked. Gratitude doesn't deny difficulties, but it expands your view to also see the blessings. And when you live in gratitude, your heart opens. Bitterness dissolves, hope is reborn, and finally, have patience. Healing doesn't happen overnight. There will be days when you'll feel strong and aligned. There will be others when the pain will come to visit again. And that's okay. Healing is not linear. It's a spiral where you revisit old themes, but always from a higher place, more conscious, stronger. Trust the process, trust God, and above all, trust yourself. Because the capacity to heal is within you. God planted this seed of renewal in your soul. And now, by walking with faith, by caring for yourself with reverence, by allowing yourself to be loved, you're watering that seed, and it will flourish. You can be sure of that. And then something magical begins to happen. Little by little, almost imperceptibly at first, you feel a change. It's not something grand or spectacular. It's subtle, like the first light of morning that slowly brightens the still dark sky. It's a gentle sensation, but deeply real. Faith is being reborn in you. This renewal doesn't come because you've become perfect. It doesn't come because all your problems have disappeared. It comes because you chose to turn inward, toward God, toward yourself. It comes because you had the courage to stop running and start caring. And that choice, in itself, is already a miracle. Renewed faith is different from that innocent faith you may have had in the past. It's not blind. It's not naive. It's tempered by experience, matured by pain, strengthened by overcoming. It's a faith that knows life can be hard, that the path can be difficult, but that still chooses to trust. Trust that there's purpose. Trust that there's love. Trust that there's a God who never abandoned you, even when you abandoned yourself. You begin to notice signs of this renewal in small things. Perhaps it's in the way you wake up in the morning, with a little more lightness in your chest. Perhaps it's in the way you look at yourself in the mirror, and for the first time in a long time, you don't look away with shame or contempt. Perhaps it's in the ability to say no without feeling that crushing weight of guilt. Or perhaps it's simply in the sensation that, finally, you're coming back home. The home that is yourself. Prayer is different now. It's no longer just a list of requests or a desperate search for external solutions. It becomes an intimate conversation, a loving encounter with the divine. You pray not just with words, but with your entire life. Each choice of self-care is a prayer. Each moment of gratitude is a prayer. Each time you forgive yourself is a prayer. And God responds, not always in the way you expected, but always in the way you need. You begin to see God differently too, no longer as a distant, severe judge, ready to condemn you for every mistake, but as a loving Father, as a compassionate presence that has always been by your side, patiently waiting for you to allow yourself to be loved. And this new perception changes everything, because when you feel God's unconditional love, when you really feel it, it becomes easier to extend that love to yourself. The renewal of faith also brings clarity. Things that once seemed confusing begin to make sense. You understand now why you went through certain experiences. Not because God wanted to punish you, but because you needed to learn something essential. Perhaps you needed to learn your limits. Perhaps you needed to discover your strength. Perhaps you needed to understand that you can't save everyone, but you can choose to save yourself. And this understanding doesn't bring revolt, it brings peace. You realize you're more present, more connected with the moment, less stuck in the past, less anxious about the future. You're here, now, and that's enough. This presence is a gift of renewed faith, because true faith anchors you in the present, in the only place where God really exists, where life really happens. Your relationships also begin to change. Some people may distance themselves, uncomfortable with your new stance of self, and that hurts, but you understand it's necessary. Other people, however, come closer. People who resonate with this new version of you, who respect your boundaries, who celebrate your growth. And you discover that true relationships don't require you to diminish yourself. They invite you to shine. There's a growing strength in you, not an arrogant or aggressive strength, but a gentle and unshakable strength. It's the strength of someone who knows who they are, of someone who knows their value, of someone who understands they are loved by God, and that this is all that matters. This strength sustains you in difficult moments. It reminds you that you've overcome storms before and can overcome them again. The renewal of faith also brings hope. That hope that doesn't depend on external circumstances. You may not have everything resolved yet. There may be challenges ahead, but now you know you're not alone. You know God is with you, and you are with you too. And this partnership, this sacred alliance between you, God, and your own heart, is unbeatable. You begin to dream again, not necessarily grandiose dreams, but true dreams, dreams that are born from your essence. not from others' expectations. You allow yourself to imagine a life where you are a priority, where you respect yourself, where you live aligned with your values and purposes. And these dreams are not distant fantasies, they are real possibilities that you now have the courage to pursue. There's gratitude too. Gratitude for the journey, however painful it may have been, because you understand now that it was through this pain that you found yourself. It was at rock bottom that you discovered you could dig a well of living water. It was in the darkness that you learned to generate your own light, and that is sacred. Renewed faith doesn't free you from challenges, but it equips you to face them. It gives you perspective. It teaches you that storms pass, but God's love remains. It shows you that you are stronger than you imagined, more resilient than you knew, more loved than you believed. And the most beautiful thing is that this renewal has no end. It's a continuous process. Each day you can choose again. Choose faith. Choose self-love. Choose to honor the temple that you are. And each time you choose, the light in you shines brighter. The connection with God deepens. Inner peace expands. You're no longer that person who got lost in others. You're no longer that person who abandoned themselves in the name of false virtue. You are someone who is learning to dance with life, to balance giving and receiving, to love others without ceasing to love yourself. And this, my dear, is what it means to live in fullness. Faith is being reborn in you, and with it, you are also being reborn. A truer, more whole version, more connected with the divine purpose that has always dwelt in your heart. Celebrate this, honor this, and keep walking, because the best is yet to come. Now you see differently. It's as if a veil has fallen from your eyes, and for the first time in a long time, you can see clearly. Not just the world around you, but especially yourself. And what you see is surprising, moving, liberating. You look at yourself in the mirror, and instead of criticism, there's curiosity. Your story. And this story is not one of failure, but of survival, of learning, of transformation. This new perspective is not just about physical appearance. It's much deeper. It's about how you perceive yourself as a human being. You no longer demand impossible perfection from yourself. You no longer punish yourself for past mistakes. And that God never expected perfection from you. He always knew you were human, and He loved you exactly for that. It's a peace that's born from within, from the understanding that you're on the right path, that you're being faithful to yourself, that you're honoring the life God gave you. And this peace is like an anchor in the midst of storms. It keeps you firm, centered, present. You also notice you have more energy, not because life has become easier, but because you're no longer wasting your vital force by neglecting yourself. When you care for yourself, when you establish boundaries, when you prioritize your well-being, you conserve energy. And this energy can be directed toward what really matters. Your dreams, your purposes, the people you truly love. The new perspective also changes how you relate to others. You no longer need to diminish yourself so others feel comfortable. You no longer need to silence your voice to avoid conflicts. You can be yourself, authentically, and trust that the right people will resonate with that. And those who don't, well, perhaps they weren't meant to be in your life, and that's okay. You discover that you can love without losing yourself. You can care without exhausting yourself. You can give without emptying yourself. Because now you understand that true love doesn't require sacrifice of your essence. It flourishes when to whole people meet, not when to halves complete each other. And the more whole you become, the more true love you attract and offer. This new perspective also brings compassion. Compassion for yourself, for the moments when you failed, for the days when you were hard on yourself. You look back and, instead of judgment, you feel tenderness. I did the best I could, you think. And it's true. It always was. And now you can move forward without carrying the weight of unnecessary guilt. There's a freedom that once seemed impossible. The freedom to choose, to say no, to say yes, to change your mind, to be imperfect, to rest, to dream, to live without the constant need for external approval, because the approval that really matters, God's, and your own, you already have. You begin to notice the small joys of life. The morning sun coming through the window, the taste of coffee taken without hurry, the genuine smile of someone who loves you, the sensation of air filling your lungs. Things that once went unnoticed now shine with meaning. Because you're present, because you're alive, because you're here. The new perspective also reveals purpose. You understand now that caring for yourself is not selfishness, it's responsibility. Because you can only fulfill your mission on this earth if you're whole, healthy, connected with your essence. God gave you talents, gifts, a unique heart, and honoring these divine gifts requires that you care for the vessel that carries them. Yourself. You perceive yourself more grateful. Grateful for the journey, for the people who helped you, for the lessons you learned. Grateful even for the difficulties, because they were what shaped you, strengthened you, brought you here. And this gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a state of being. It's a way of walking through life, recognizing the blessings in each step. There's also a renewed confidence. Confidence in yourself, in your capacity to make wise choices. Confidence in God, in His guidance, in His unconditional love. Confidence in life, in its mysterious but always perfect unfolding. You no longer need to control everything, predict everything, protect yourself from everything. You can trust, and in that trust, there's rest. The new perspective makes you realize you've changed, not in a forced or artificial way, but organically, naturally, like a flower that blooms when its season arrives. You are more yourself than ever, more connected with your truth, more aligned with your values, more faithful to your heart. And this authenticity is magnetic. It attracts opportunities, people, experiences that resonate with who you really are. You also become gentler with yourself. When a critical thought arises, you recognize it, but don't let yourself be dominated by it. Thank you for trying to protect me, you say to the inner voice, but I don't need that anymore. I am safe. I am loved. I am well. And gradually, these voices lose strength, being replaced by whispers of encouragement, affirmations of love, reminders that you are enough. It's seeing yourself through His eyes, with infinite love, with inexhaustible compassion, with total acceptance. Wheat presence, with purpose, with love for others, and, finally, love for yourself. And this is the full life God always wanted for you. A life where self-love and spirituality are not opposites, but powerful allies in the journey of becoming who you were created to be. And now, with this renewed perspective, you can walk through the world with a lightness that once seemed impossible, because you know who you are, you know where you come from, and you know where you're going, closer to God, closer to yourself, closer to the full and abundant life that has always been your divine birthright. And so we arrive at the end of this journey, but also at a new beginning, because the truth is that healing doesn't end here. It's a continuous path, a choice you make every day, in each small gesture of love directed toward yourself. And now, you know you can make this choice. You have the tools, you have the faith, you have the certainty that you're not alone. What have we learned today? We learned that self-love is not a luxury, not vanity, not selfishness. It is sacred. It's the foundation upon which our entire life is built. It's impossible to truly love others when we don't love ourselves. It's impossible to serve God fully when we're exhausted, empty, lost, Because God doesn't ask us to nullify ourselves, He asks us to flourish. We learned that spirituality and self-love are not opposites. They are complementary. They are inseparable. When you love yourself from a spiritual foundation, you're not just caring for yourself, you're honoring the divine creation that you are. You're saying to God, I value what you made. I care for the temple you entrusted to me. And that, far from being selfishness, is one of the purest forms of gratitude. We also learned that establishing boundaries is an act of wisdom and love. Saying no to preserve your peace is not cruelty, it's respect. Respect for yourself, respect for others, respect for truth. Because relationships built on unsustainable sacrifices eventually crumble. But relationships built on authenticity, and people who care for themselves, and from that care, the better those thrive. We understood that the pain of self-abandonment is real, deep, and devastating. But we also discovered that it's not permanent. It can be healed. And healing begins the moment you decide to put yourself on the list of people who deserve to be loved. Actually, not just on the list at the top of it, because if you're not well, how can you care for those you love? How can you fulfill your purpose? The journey we walked together today showed us that God never abandoned us. Even when we abandoned ourselves, He was always there, patiently waiting for us to come back home. And home, we realize now, is not just a place of prayer or a physical temple. Home is yourself. It's your heart. It's the sacred connection between you, God, and your purest essence. We saw that healing is made of small steps, of sincere prayers, of moments of silence where you listen to yourself, of daily choices that honor who you are, of forgiveness for your mistakes, forgiveness for the times you were hard on yourself, forgiveness for the time you lost neglecting yourself. And we also saw that it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to choose a different path. We discovered that renewed faith is stronger than naive faith, because it was tested, proven, matured by experience. It's a faith that knows life can be difficult, but still chooses to trust. Trust in God, trust in life, trust in yourself, and this trust is liberating. The new perspective we gained allows us to see beauty where we once saw only flaws. It allows us to feel gratitude where there was only bitterness. It allows us to live with presence, with purpose, with love. And this perspective is not fixed, it can continue expanding, deepening, revealing increasingly deeper layers of truth and beauty. So, what is the final teaching you can take from this conversation? It's this. Loving yourself is an act of faith. It's believing that God doesn't make mistakes. It's trusting that you are valuable, not for what you do or accomplish, but simply for existing. That's understanding that caring for yourself doesn't take you away from God, it brings you closer to Him. Because the more you love yourself, the more you reflect the love He has for you. And when you truly love yourself, when you care for yourself with reverence and gratitude, something magical happens. You become a purer channel of divine love. You can love others more genuinely. You can serve without exhausting yourself. You can give without emptying yourself, because you're always renewing yourself, always reconnecting with the source. Always remember, you are not perfect, and you don't need to be. You are human, and that is enough. God loves you exactly as you are, with all your flaws, fears, and imperfections. And if God loves you like this, who are you not to love yourself too? May you leave here today with a lighter heart, with the certainty that you deserve to be loved, cared for, honored by God, by others, and especially by yourself. May you have the courage to establish boundaries, to say no when necessary, to choose yourself without guilt. And may you always remember, the union between self-love and spirituality is not just possible, it's essential. It's the key to healing, to peace, to the full life God always wanted you to live. You are loved. You are enough. You are a blessing. And now it's time for you to believe this with all your heart. If this message touched your heart, it's because God is speaking to you at this exact moment. He's inviting you to start over, to choose a different path, to finally put yourself on the list of people you love and care for. Don't ignore this calling. Don't leave for tomorrow what your soul is asking for today. You didn't get here by chance. Every word you heard, every feeling that awakened in you, every tear that may have fallen. All of this is part of the healing process that has already begun. And now, it's up to you to take the next step. It can be small, it can be simple, but take it. Choose yourself today, choose yourself tomorrow, and keep choosing day after day. And if you felt this message was for you, if something here resonated deeply with your soul, I invite you to subscribe to the Between Love and Faith channel. Here, we'll continue this journey together. Every week, new messages of healing, hope, and faith will be waiting for you, because you don't have to walk alone. We're all here, supporting each other, growing together, healing in community. In the next video, we're going to talk about something equally transformative: how to forgive yourself and free yourself from the prisons of the past. Because after learning to love yourself, it's time to learn to set yourself free. And I promise, this journey will touch your heart even more deeply. Until then, remember, you are loved, you are enough, you are a blessing, and God walks by your side. Always, may the peace of the Lord be with you. See you soon, dear soul.